Good morning, Year 5. Today we're going to have a look at an extract from a story called Street Child by Burley Doherty. I'm going to read it to you. You should follow along on your own text at home. I'm going to pose some questions which you can answer in your head or in your orange book, and then you can answer the questions that accompany this text. Let's get started. Street Child. At last he came to his home, in a house so full of families that he sometimes wondered how the floors and walls didn't come tumbling down with the weight and noise of them all. He ran up the stairs and burst into the room his own family lived in. He was panting with triumph and excitement. Have a little think of the building there. What is the building like? What might it be like to live in that building? I've got the pie, he sang out. Shh! His sister Emily was kneeling on the floor, and she turned round to him sharply. Ma's asleep, Jim. Lizzie jumped up and ran to him, pulling him over towards the fire so they could spread out the pudding cloth on the hearth. They broke off chunks of pastry and dipped them into the brimming gravy. So I want to talk to you about some vocabulary there. So a hearth is like the area next to a fire. We know that pastry is the nice bit of the pie, and brimming gravy. So think about how much gravy there would be in that pie if it is brimming. Think about using that word in another context. If you've got a cup and it is brimming with water, what would we say about it? Can you change the word brimming to another word? What about Ma? Asked Lizzie. She won't want it, Emily said. She never eats. Lizzie pulled Jim's hands back as he was reaching for another chunk. But the gravy might do her good, she suggested. Just a little taste. Stop shoveling it down so fast, Jim. Let Ma have a bit. She turned round to her mother's pile of bedding and pulled back the ragged cover. Ma, she whispered, try a bit. It's lovely. She held a piece of gravy-soaked pie crust to her lips, but her mother shook her head and turned over, huddling her rug around her. We get some clues there about their living situation and what it might be like. Words like rug and ragged, pile of bedding. Doesn't sound like it's a proper bed, does it? I'll have it, said Jim, but Lizzie put it on the corner of her mother's bed rags. She might feel like it later, she said. The smell might tempt her. I told you, said Emily. She don't want food no more. That's what she said. Jim paused for a moment in his eating, his hand resting over his portion of pie in case his sisters snatched it away from him. What's the matter with Ma? He asked. Nothing's the matter, said Emily. She chucked a log on the fire, watching how the flames curled themselves round it. Do we believe Emily? Does it sound like nothing's the matter with Mum? Let's read on and see if there are any more clues. She's tired is all, Lizzie prompted her. She just wants to sleep, don't she? She's been asleep all day, said Jim. And yesterday, and the day before. Have a think, do people that are well and happy and things, do they sleep all day? Do we think Mum's ill? Maybe you can find some clues in the text to support your answer. Just eat your pie, said Emily. You heard what she said. There's no more shillings in that purse, so don't expect no more pies after this one. So shillings was an old form of money. So if there's no more shillings in the purse, what does that mean for the next food or the next meal for the children? She'll get better soon, Lizzie said, and then she'll be able to go back to work. There's lots of jobs for cooks. We'll soon be out of this place. That's what she told me, Jim. Will we go back to our cottage? Jim asked. Lizzie shook her head. You know we can't go there, Jim. We had to move out when Father died. Eat your pie, said Emily. She wants us to enjoy it. But the pie had grown cold before the children finished it. They pulled their rag pile close to the hearth and curled up together, Jim between Emily and Lizzie. In all the rooms of the house they could hear people muttering and yawning and scratching. Outside in the street dogs were howling and carriage wheels trundled on the slushy roads. Jim lay awake. He could hear how his mother's breath rattled in her throat. That doesn't sound great, does it? And he knew by the way she tossed and turned that she wasn't asleep. He could tell by the way his sisters lay taut and still each side of him that they were awake too, listening through the night to its noises, longing for day to come. The word taut in that sentence means like tense and straight. Okay, if you're happy with that text, you may go ahead and answer the questions. If you're a little bit stuck on the questions, I'm going to post another video giving you some help. Thank you very much for listening.